Hello, I'm Alex, a man who trembled with rage after learning an unbelievable truth. I always thought I was born under a fortunate star. I had the same big and small worries as others, but no significant misfortune or hardship. Thanks to my well-off parents, I was able to enjoy everything I wanted. It turns out one woman brought tremendous misfortune into my life. Unaware of this, I cherished her greatly. That person was my wife, Sarah. Would you listen to the story of that incident, which I won't forget until the day I die? My parents were originally an ordinary working couple. My mother ran a chain store selling underwear, socks, etc., and my father was an office worker. Our family lived in Seoul. My parents owned a small plot of land left by my grandparents, who passed away early. But when I was in elementary school, that land was redeveloped, and the price skyrocketed. Furthermore, even the neighborhood where our family lived was redeveloped, and my family literally became rich overnight. In my childhood, not a few people became wealthy as lands full of rice paddies or neighborhoods packed with shabby houses were developed. I had a best friend since elementary school named Ethan. You're lucky, Alex. Our family was actually kicked out of that neighborhood. My friend lived in a dilapidated rental house in the same neighborhood as me. His mother lost his father early and raised him alone, so they were not well off. When the neighborhood was redeveloped, unlike my house, my friend's family became even worse off. Tenants were naturally not given any compensation, and my friend and his mother were forced to move out of that house, to a more rundown area nearby. Hey, Alex, don't hang out with that beggar. Why would a kid from a rich family like you hang out with someone like him? What? If you mess with Ethan one more time, I'll rub your lips raw with a bath towel. After moving up to middle school, my friend's situation worsened, and he was briefly shunned by the mean kids. He couldn't wash well, and since some teachers even ignored him, the kids thought he was an easy target. On the other hand, since I had money and a big build, they couldn't treat me badly. I kept my friend's side, distancing myself from those pathetic kids. It wasn't because I was kind, it was simply because their behavior was wrong, and I much preferred my friend Ethan, who was gentle and truly kind like a scholar, over those pathetic guys. I constantly hoped that my close friend's poor and difficult life would get better, but realistic hardships kept following him. After graduating from university, unlike me, my friend immediately got a job at a factory, wanting to help his single mother. While I was still in college, he almost had several months' worth of wages stolen by a bad boss. I want to quit, but I can't quit, because I might not get the back pay, and I can't just stay. I'm going crazy. At that time, I got a capable lawyer, introduced through my parents, and connected him with my friend. My parents constantly worked and also invested in real estate, so they had a lot of legal struggles. I thought they would have connections, so I asked them for help. Then, for my friend who had no money, I even lent him the money I had saved from working part-time and tutoring throughout college as the lawyer's fee. The lawyer reduced the fee, saying it was a favor to my parents. Even with that, my friend was able to get his help. As a result, my friend luckily recovered his unpaid wages, and was able to successfully move to another factory. That's how hard I tried to help my friend. When he was struggling with his mother's hospital bills, I, who was working, lent him money again without any conditions. My friend, who had a lot of debt due to living expenses and hospital bills, felt very sorry that he couldn't repay my money on time. After his mother passed away following a long illness, I just told him not to pay the money back. Consider it condolence money for your mother. You know I really liked your mother, too. This way, if you relieve some of your burden, your mother can go to heaven with some peace of mind. Why do you help me so much? I haven't done anything good for you. Hey, what's with why between friends? You're my best friend, and I just don't want to see you struggle. I'm just a little luckier than you, and my life worked out well. So, I'll share my luck with you for the rest of your life, so you can struggle less. So straighten up, you rascal. At that, my friend sobbed like a child, thanking me. I gave my friend's shoulder a warm pat. My friend got married in his mid-30s, and I gave him 5,000,000 as a wedding gift. I wanted to buy him an appliance or furniture, but he kept refusing, saying it was fine, so I just sent him a large sum as cash. If you send it back, we're done. Don't make me lose face in front of your wife, Olivia. He was such a conscientious friend that he kept insisting on returning the money until the end. It was even difficult for me to give him the congratulatory money. Olivia was also truly an angelic person. In the end, my friend and his wife accepted my wedding gift, and both of them were very grateful to me. After my friend got married, I met the couple once in a while, but I couldn't meet my married friend as often as before. I felt a bit empty, but I began to forge my own life path. You want to start a restaurant? Yes, a fusion restaurant that blends Korean and Western cuisine. After working for a long time in the restaurant industry, I decided to open my own place after much planning and deliberation. I always discussed my future plans with my parents, and when I told them about this, they said there would soon be an empty spot on the first floor of one of their commercial buildings, and they suggested I start there. They said they wouldn't charge me a deposit or monthly rent. My parents had steadily increased their wealth through investment, and bought several buildings with that money. As a result, by the time I was in my 30s, they owned a whopping 3 buildings. They weren't mini buildings either, but buildings that were at least 5 stories tall in neighborhoods with decent land value. Thanks to this, my parents were able to live comfortably even after retirement. These parents wanted to fully support me, their only child. Thank you, Father, Mother. I won't take anything lightly and will do my best. With a grateful heart, I opened and began operating the fusion restaurant. The toughest thing for self-employed people is usually the rent, but since I didn't have to worry about that, I was able to establish myself more easily than others, and perhaps thanks to working my hardest without a single day off. The restaurant became quite well known, since it was an area with high foot traffic anyway. The restaurant's sales kept increasing. However, I was so dedicated to the business that I didn't even think about dating, and before I knew it, I was 43 years old. My parents, who were even more anxious than I was, kept urging me to get married. Alex, you're going to grow old and die a bachelor. You're our only child, and your mother and father are dying to see a grandchild. Then, one day, I heard something very surprising. Hello, CEO. I'm here to pick up a takeout order for me and the staff to eat at the office. That day, Sarah, the tax accountant who rented the 3rd floor of my parents' building, came to my store to pick up a late lunch. We were taking both delivery and takeout orders, and tenants in the same building often took food to go unless they were having drinks with dinner. My restaurant's food wasn't too expensive, so it was a good option for office workers' lunch. Sarah had been managing my parents' assets for over 3 years. My parents had given the tax accountant, who did especially good work, a slightly cheaper rent. Perhaps because of this, Sarah was always very kind to me, their son, whenever we met. Sarah was a woman a whole 10 years younger than me, but my parents strangely started praising her a lot in front of me, saying she was cheerful and capable. And that day, I found out why. But do you know something, CEO? Your parents keep asking if you and I could meet sometime. I'm telling you this in advance, but I thought you were a truly good person even before I knew you were their son. Just so you know, my parents. Oh, those two. My parents wanted to set me up with Sarah. Of course, I also thought she was a kind and good person, but the age difference was so big that I hadn't even considered having feelings for her. So, when I told my parents not to push it, they got even more excited and encouraged me. Did Sarah really say that? Oh my, yes, Alex, Sarah must be interested in you. Go out with her. She's a really nice person. Due to my parents' insistence, I finally gathered the courage to ask Sarah out on a date. When we met and talked as a man and a woman, not as a customer and a shop owner, Sarah was even better than I thought. Her politeness, kindness, and thoughtfulness, made me feel romantic feelings again after a long time. That connection eventually led to us getting married after a year of dating. Finally, I became a married man, too. Sarah's family wasn't well off, so she hesitated about marriage at first. It was my parents who actively persuaded my wife. Money comes and goes, why hesitate over that? We, your prospective in-laws, approve. We will treat you very well. Thank you, mother and father, for liking someone like me who is nothing special. So we got married, and my friend Ethan's couple also sincerely congratulated us. At that time, my friend gave me $1,000,000 as a wedding gift, apologizing that he couldn't afford more. He seemed sorry he couldn't contribute as much as I did. However, knowing how much money that was for him, given his circumstances, I thanked him several times. Mother, father, I learned how to cook delicious boiled pork online. I bought all the ingredients to make it for you. It's called kola suyuk. I was so eager to make it for you that I pestered my husband to visit you quickly since this morning. We're having a boiled pork party for lunch. After getting married, my wife treated my parents and me very well. While daughters-in-law in other families avoid visiting their in-laws, my wife constantly pestered me to go visit them. She didn't just sit there idly. She always found new and interesting recipes to delight them. Although she wasn't always successful, my parents truly appreciated her effort and devotion. Mother-in-law, my parents also sometimes worry that you might be lonely living alone. Why don't you just come live with us? I will take good care of you. My mother-in-law was the only one in her family. I don't know the exact circumstances, but I could imagine how difficult her life must have been, having raised my wife as a single mother. My friend Ethan also grew up struggling under a single mother. Feeling sorry for my mother-in-law, I suggested she move in with us early on. My parents also suggested it would be a good idea for me to take care of her since she was alone. That's how much they adored my wife. My wife was very grateful for the offer, but my mother-in-law ultimately refused. She said she felt ashamed enough that she couldn't do anything for her daughter when she got married. I was disappointed, but instead, I often visited her and tried to be a good son-in-law. Mother-in-law, I came to help you close up. Oh. Did my wife close her shop already? No, today the staff are handling the closing, so I came here to help you, mother-in-law. My mother-in-law originally ran a small raw fish restaurant, but due to the recession, she had to close it shortly after I got married. She couldn't afford the rent. At that time, my parents helped her start a new raw fish restaurant, saying there was a vacant spot in another building they owned, not the one my wife and I were in. In-laws should help each other out. The deposit and rent at our building are high, but please only pay a third of both. I would love to tell you to use it for free, but I know that would make you uncomfortable. This spot is great, so you'll likely get a lot of customers. Oh, thank you so much. I've lived a hard life, but now I'm finally seeing family blessings. Thank you for accepting my daughter as your daughter-in-law into such a good family. At that, my mother-in-law even shed tears of gratitude. My wife was the same. Sometimes I really envy Sarah. She's young, smart, and kind. She seems to have it all. But I'm a senior when it comes to running a household. So feel free to contact me if you ever need help. I also got along very well with my friend Ethan's couple. We often had couple gatherings. Ethan's wife, Olivia, called me Alex Opa and took good care of me like a younger sibling. My wife praised the two of them a lot, saying that the mature Olivia and my friend Ethan, who was usually kinder and more caring than I was, suited each other very well, saying they were a perfectly ideal couple. But about 2 years after I got married, a huge misfortune struck my friend's couple. Alex, my wife. When I got the call from my friend that day, I instantly dropped the phone. The news my friend delivered was too shocking. Olivia, who always seemed so bright, had suddenly taken her own life. In the suicide note Olivia left, only a very short message was written. Life is tiring. I want to stop living. I heard from my friend that Olivia was actually suffering from severe depression. The couple struggled a lot with Olivia's infertility issues and tried everything, but they were unable to have a child. I didn't know it, but I heard Olivia was very depressed about it. They say you can't always tell if someone has depression just by looking at them, and Olivia was exactly that case. Then, when the dog they were raising also passed away, Olivia's depression worsened. Furthermore, Olivia had quit her job due to a conflict with a superior at work at the time. I knew about all those background issues, but neither I nor Olivia's family knew she was suffering from such severe depression. Alex, I'm completely alone now. What am I going to do about my poor wife? I should have paid more attention. She was such a good person, and the thought that she had to go so tragically broke my heart. And so, my friend Ethan became alone. I stayed by the side of my friend, who was too distraught to compose himself, throughout the funeral. Just like when his mother passed, I followed the cremation process to the columbarium and sent Olivia off. Afterward, I was terrified that my friend might try to follow Olivia, so I visited his house and spent the night with him, and I also went to his company entrance to drink coffee with him late into the evening. My wife Sarah also worried about him a lot, so there were many nights when we called him over to our place and the three of us drank. Thankfully, my wife, worried that my friend might just be eating instant ramen, even made and sent side dishes through me. That's how my wife and I tried to be a source of strength for our friend who had no family. Thank you for looking out for me, Alex. I feel bad for my wife, but I'm going to try to live bravely again. The living must go on. Fortunately, my friend slowly began to gather strength and live again. I was truly grateful to see him overcome his pain so quickly. Are you working late again today, honey? Yeah, I'm busy just until today. The beginning of the month is particularly hectic, but I think it'll be over in a few days. I'll probably finish later than you today, so don't wait for me and go home first. It was about 6 months after Olivia passed away. My wife was working late for several days because her job was too busy. Normally, my wife would have finished much earlier than me, who also worked late, but I got worried when she said she'd be leaving later than me that day. Then, around 7 p.m., my wife texted that she was too busy with work to eat dinner, so I, who was still working, decided to pack her a meal. I planned to pack up food from my restaurant and take it up to the 3rd floor. My wife said she was working late with one of her staff, Jessica, so I packed 2 servings of spaghetti and side dishes and went up to her office. But when I knocked on the office door, there was no sound. They must be in the inner room. My wife's office had a few staff desks, a customer service sofa, and a table when you opened the door and walked in. And deeper inside, there was my wife's private room, where she had more private consultations with clients. I figured my wife would be there and walked closer. Through the slightly ajar door, I heard the voices of my wife and her employee, Jessica, whom I occasionally greeted. Since the employee, who was about 5 years younger than my wife, had a distinctive voice, I immediately recognized her. I was about to announce my presence, but the shocking content I heard from inside made me instinctively hold my breath to hide my existence. Ms. Tax Accountant, so when are you going to get divorced? You said you really want to go to Ethan now, right? I'm just waiting for the right timing. Since I married into a rich family, shouldn't I squeeze some money out before getting divorced? That's why I'm trying to get pregnant quickly. Pregnant? Why get pregnant if you're going to get divorced? My wife was telling her employee that she wanted to divorce me and get my money first. My heart was pounding at the unbelievable story. In the middle of it all, I quietly turned on the voice recording function on my phone, thinking, I need to keep evidence. And what the two of them talked about next was utterly shocking. I've tried to secretly steal some of your parents' assets, but I failed, even though they delegated everything to me because they trusted me. Your father is meticulous. There's no way to steal it. No matter how much they like me, they won't suddenly just transfer their assets to me. But things change if a grandchild is born, right? So I'm trying to get pregnant quickly and persuade my in-laws. Something about how it's good to gift a building in the grandchild's name as soon as they're born, as it saves on gift and inheritance taxes. To the child? Yes, my in-laws trust my every word. After getting a building in the child's name, I'll get divorced. If I manage to get custody of the child's assets, which will be untouched for a long time until the child grows up, will practically be mine, right? It would be great if I could get this building, or even the building where my mother runs her raw fish restaurant. But what excuse will you use to get divorced all of a sudden? You can't honestly say you cheated. Are you crazy? After I get pregnant, I'll slowly start picking fights and make him sick of me. I need to think of a method, but I'll try to push it towards a personality difference divorce, so I'm not the spouse at fault. But his family likes me so much I'm worried it might not work out. So my wife was having an affair. My wife was trying to divorce me to steal my parents' building, and go to the other man. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't even imagine when or how the person who had such a good relationship with me, and who even worked in the same building, had betrayed me. And when I heard the identity of the man she was having an affair with from her own mouth, I nearly collapsed right there. But you said the man you're seeing is Alex's best friend, right? How did he end up so handsome? I thought he was only in his early 40s at most. Our Ethan is handsome, isn't he? My husband isn't ugly, but I was so surprised when I first saw Ethan. Plus, he's caring and affectionate. I tried not to, but I couldn't help but fall for him, and I was so touched to know he felt the same way about me. My husband is kind and has a lot of money, but a person's heart can't be forced, you know? Although I married him mainly for his background and personality, who knew I'd find true love right after getting married? We're completely destined. That's why I felt bad for my husband and Olivia, but I couldn't break up with him. Olivia was a really good person, too. The person my wife was having an affair with was none other than my best friend, Ethan. Honestly, the fact that he betrayed me was more shocking than the fact that my wife was cheating. My time spent with him was much longer, after all. Furthermore, the two of them had confirmed their feelings for each other and started an improper relationship. Less than a year after I got married, they said, and my friend's wife, Olivia, had noticed that fact. I knew she'd be shocked, but who knew she'd make that choice as soon as she figured it out? Even with severe depression, both Ethan and I were terrified, but her passing ultimately became a major turning point for us. Ethan felt bad for his wife, and I was dragging my feet on the divorce, because I was greedy for my in-laws' money. But this whole thing made me decide to just get divorced and go to Ethan. But no matter what, I can't leave empty-handed. Anyway, I'll keep my mouth shut. My lips are sealed. Of course, they should be, since you're getting hush money from me every month. Phew, if only I hadn't been flirting with Ethan secretly here, and been caught by Jessica. Anyway, as long as you're taking money from me, it's not good for you if I get caught, Jessica, so you need to keep your mouth completely shut. Ugh, let's stop chatting and get back to work. We need to go home soon. The conversation between the two of them kept shocking me until the end. So, Jessica, the employee talking to my wife, had accidentally witnessed their affair and was receiving hush money from my wife. This was the person who was always so friendly to me. I felt like I couldn't trust anyone and the world became a terrifying place. When they finished their conversation, I quietly sneaked out of the office, being careful not to make a sound. Then I returned to my restaurant with the food I had packed. No matter how much I thought about it, I couldn't tolerate the situation. I hated the fact that the two of them betrayed me, and I felt nothing but contempt for my wife, who called Olivia's tragic choice an opportunity for them. I wanted to kill them both right away, but I thought I needed more evidence, so I bided my time and clenched my teeth. First, I bought a few small surveillance cameras and installed them at home. Then, a few days later, I told my wife I would have to go on a business trip out of town for about 2 nights and 3 days. I think I'm going to hit the jackpot. I got an inquiry about a franchise in the provinces. I think it will take that long to talk to them and check out the commercial area. My wife congratulated me, saying that was great. Her fake smile looked disgusting, but I forced a smile and thanked her. Pretending to leave for the provinces, I left the house, got a room near my house, and waited for them to fall into the trap. I figured that if I were away, Ethan would surely show up within a day. Since he couldn't meet my wife freely while worrying about me, I thought he wouldn't miss the opportunity. So, I lied and decided to watch the live feed being sent to my phone. Ugh, I'm tired. But walking home with Ethan like this makes me feel like we're already married, doesn't it? I know, it's so nice coming home to you, Sarah, instead of going to a lonely house alone every day. I want to live with you soon. Even though I feel bad for Alex, I feel bad for my husband, too. But I can't be unhappy, can I? I can't live without Ethan now. Let's hurry and eat and wash up. My husband's restaurant pasta tastes amazing. It'll taste bad if it gets cold. And let's have a glass of wine. Sure enough, the very evening I left on my business trip, my friend Ethan came into my house with my wife Sarah. I had said 2 nights and 3 days just in case, but I didn't even need to wait 2 days. They exchanged disgusting words and even started eating the food my wife had packed from my restaurant, which I'd left in the hands of my staff. That was too much text to search through. I'll use the character count in the translated text in the final step. We're completely destined. That's why I felt bad for my husband and Olivia, but I couldn't break up with him. Olivia was a really good person, too. The person my wife was having an affair with was none other than my best friend, Ethan. Honestly, the fact that he betrayed me was more shocking than the fact that my wife was cheating. My time spent with him was much longer, after all. Furthermore, the two of them had confirmed their feelings for each other and started an improper relationship. Less than a year after I got married, they said, and my friend's wife, Olivia, had noticed that fact. I knew she'd be shocked, but who knew she'd make that choice as soon as she figured it out? Even with severe depression, both Ethan and I were terrified, but her passing ultimately became a major turning point for us. Ethan felt bad for his wife, and I was dragging my feet on the divorce, because I was greedy for my in-laws' money. But this whole thing made me decide to just get divorced and go to Ethan. But no matter what, I can't leave empty-handed. Anyway, I'll keep my mouth shut. My lips are sealed. Of course, they should be, since you're getting hush money from me every month. Phew, if only I hadn't been flirting with Ethan secretly here, and been caught by Jessica. Anyway, as long as you're taking money from me, it's not good for you if I get caught, Jessica. So you need to keep your mouth completely shut. Ugh, let's stop chatting and get back to work. We need to go home soon. The conversation between the two of them kept shocking me until the end. So, Jessica, the employee talking to my wife, had accidentally witnessed their affair and was receiving hush money from my wife. This was the person who was always so friendly to me. I felt like I couldn't trust anyone and the world became a terrifying place. When they finished their conversation, I quietly sneaked out of the office, being careful not to make a sound. Then I returned to my restaurant with the food I had packed. No matter how much I thought about it, I couldn't tolerate the situation. I hated the fact that the two of them betrayed me, and I felt nothing but contempt for my wife, who called Olivia's tragic choice an opportunity for them. I wanted to kill them both right away, but I thought I needed more evidence, so I bided my time and clenched my teeth. First, I bought a few small surveillance cameras and installed them at home. Then, a few days later, I told my wife I would have to go on a business trip out of town for about 2 nights and 3 days. I think I'm going to hit the jackpot. I got an inquiry about a franchise in the provinces. I think it will take that long to talk to them and check out the commercial area. My wife congratulated me, saying that was great. Her fake smile looked disgusting, but I forced a smile and thanked her. Pretending to leave for the provinces, I left the house, got a room near my house, and waited for them to fall into the trap. I figured that if I were away, Ethan would surely show up within a day. Since he couldn't meet my wife freely while worrying about me, I thought he wouldn't miss the opportunity. So, I lied and decided to watch the live feed being sent to my phone. Ugh, I'm tired. But walking home with Ethan like this makes me feel like we're already married, doesn't it? I know, it's so nice coming home to you, Sarah, instead of going to a lonely house alone every day. I want to live with you soon. Even though I feel bad for Alex, I feel bad for my husband, too. But I can't be unhappy, can I? I can't live without Ethan now. Let's hurry and eat and wash up. My husband's restaurant pasta tastes amazing. It'll taste bad if it gets cold. And let's have a glass of wine. Sure enough, the very evening I left on my business trip, my friend Ethan came into my house with my wife Sarah. I had said 2 nights and 3 days just in case, but I didn't even need to wait 2 days. They exchanged disgusting words and even started eating the food my wife had packed from my restaurant, which I'd left in the hands of my staff. They were touching each other and holding hands like crazy, and I felt my fists clench. My friend had even taken the next day off work to spend time with my wife. I don't have to go to work tomorrow, either. All the urgent work was finished by today. Cheers to our golden future. If you, Sarah, just get pregnant with Alex's child, everything will go exactly as planned. I believe in you. I'm sorry I'm not capable and put that burden on you, but if you bring Alex's child to me, I will raise the child like my own. No, it's fine. I was the one who insisted on taking a building, saying I needed it, even though you said it wasn't necessary. Our second child will definitely be ours. I'm still young, so I can have a second one anytime. They clinked their wine glasses, creating their own soap opera. I felt like I had enough evidence and saw no need to watch any further. It was revolting. I immediately rushed home. When I entered the house by punching in the passcode, they were happily eating and drinking wine, and they froze, standing up abruptly. You pieces of trash. First, I took countless pictures of the two of them, then I threw the food on the table right at their faces, and I poured the half-empty bottle of wine inside on them. Covered in a mess, they froze, unable to move for a moment. The first person to speak, stammering, was my wife Sarah. You said you were going out of town today. It was a lie, wasn't it? Can't you tell? I went to your office and heard everything. The things you said with your employee Jessica. You said you had been having an affair even before Olivia, my friend's wife, passed away, and that you were planning to get pregnant with my child to steal a building and get divorced. Do you know how betrayed and furious I felt when I heard that? But I held it in and used my brain to get concrete evidence. Alex. Ethan. Don't even say my name, you bastard. How could you do this to me? How could you do this to Olivia? How heartbroken must Olivia have been to take her own life? And you, just 6 months later, are drinking wine with my wife in my house behind my back. Are you even human? I screamed, and my friend Ethan called my name, looking helpless. I screamed at him again, a vein pulsing in my neck. At that, he could only weep, unable to say anything, and my wife Sarah next to him, dropped to her knees and began to beg. I'm sorry, honey, it's all our fault. Of course, we've been struggling with guilt all this time. We were truly shocked when Olivia passed away like that, but we loved each other so much we couldn't break up. We couldn't control our feelings, and that's how we ended up here. I'm sorry, but we were really suffering, too. Don't play innocent. If you were going to talk about love, you shouldn't have gone after my family's money. How could you plan to get pregnant with my child and steal my parents' building in the middle of all this? You're a devil who manipulated my family, who treated you and your mother so well, down to the bone. You heard all that too. My wife, who had been talking about love, was flustered and couldn't lift her head when she realized I knew more than she thought. Then my friend Ethan stepped forward to beg for forgiveness. I'm sorry, Alex. Sarah and I both lived very poor lives when we were young. so we were momentarily greedy for what we shouldn't have. I also felt sorry for you and my wife Olivia, and tried to keep my feelings in check. But Sarah is smarter and younger than my wife, and we have so much in common that I couldn't forget her. And when I found out that Sarah felt the same way, how could I give up a woman like this? How can you say that? Even if that's the case, how can you go after your best friend's wife? How desperately must poor Olivia have felt, how desperately. I'm sorry, I was really struggling, too. Honey, I'm truly sorry for cheating, and trying to use your child as leverage to steal money. I will live the rest of my life in atonement, but our love is truly sincere, so please, just divorce me. I really can't live without Ethan now. It hasn't been long since we got married, and we don't have kids yet. Anyway, my wife followed his lead, apologized, and brazenly demanded a divorce first. I yelled at the two true lovers, tears of blood streaming down my face. Of course. How could I live any longer with a terrible woman like you? I will curse you both for the rest of your lives. You, who dared to see my family only as money, and you, Ethan, who betrayed me, who treated you like family, in such an unbelievable way. You'll both pay for this karma eventually. Get out. Get out of my house right now. After chasing them out, I was left alone, sobbing uncontrollably. I had completely lost the two people I trusted most in an instant. Afterward, my parents were naturally astonished, and my mother went to my wife's office and grabbed her by the hair. My father was too shocked to move and couldn't go with her. I was worried about my mother and also had business there, so I went with her. Ah, Mother, please let go of me. I won't let go, you ungrateful wretch. You and your mother benefited from us so much. How dare you tear my son's heart to shreds? Today, it's you or me. I only kept an eye on my mother to make sure she didn't get hurt, but I had no intention of stepping in to help. Instead, I spoke to Jessica, the employee who was trembling beside her. I know that you, Jessica, were an accomplice who took money from my wife. I am sorry. I needed the money. I don't care about your circumstances. You will be receiving a lawsuit soon. Since you took a bribe and cooperated in a matter that harmed me, you'll have to pay me compensation. Let me add one more thing. Don't think you can live an easy life. Money earned by hurting others is poison. Then, bringing my mother out, who still couldn't control her anger, I coldly told my wife Sarah, clear out the office immediately. I don't want the stench of a human like you filling my parents' building. Naturally, my parents also informed my mother-in-law to immediately vacate her restaurant. My mother-in-law, who heard the truth, belatedly, wept and apologized to my parents and me. How could that Sarah do that to you? She's not a child. What's with all this talk of love? And to think she tried to get pregnant for money. In the end, didn't my daughter ruin my life with shame? I'm sorry, Alex. My deepest apologies to you and your parents. In the end, my wife Sarah and my mother-in-law had to vacate the office and restaurant immediately, and it seems someone from the building posted the whole incredible story online. I felt so sorry for bringing shame to my parents. Internet scandals usually flare up quickly and disappear, but their story spread widely among people for a while, especially among tax accountants. Sarah's real name must have been subtly circulated. My ex-wife probably couldn't lift her head in front of her fellow tax accountants, relatives, or friends for a long time. I was angry at my wife, but my sense of betrayal toward my friend Ethan was immense. So, I spread the story about him among all our friends. I even went to the company he was working at the time and completely embarrassed him. Ah, how unbelievable. We hired a new person who swore they'd work hard, and their character is completely rotten. At the time, my friend Ethan had quit his factory job, and had been working as a designer at a small to medium-sized company for about 4 years. He said his dream was always to be a designer. However, being a late-starting newcomer, he was always conscious of his company's scrutiny, and that incident eventually led to him being forced to resign. Naturally, I filed for divorce and a lawsuit for emotional distress against my wife Sarah, and also a lawsuit for emotional distress against my friend Ethan, and my wife's colleague Jessica. I didn't know it then, but voice recordings, where the conversation participants do not include the person recording, cannot be used as evidence in court. So, the surveillance camera footage with only their voices wasn't usable as evidence, but the footage from after I burst into the house, which included me, was thankfully usable as evidence. They all had to pay me damages, and my wife Sarah, of course, received no assets from me. We hadn't been married long, and we had no children. Afterward, I donated all the money I received from them as compensation to charity. I wanted to use that horrific money for something good. Finally, after some searching, I found the contact information for my friend's wife Olivia's older brother. I informed him of the truth about why Olivia had actually passed away. It's a terrible truth, but I thought you should know. I apologize for having to deliver this news. How could that Ethan do that? Thank you for letting me know, for not letting the truth of my sister's unfair death be buried. Eventually, my friend Ethan reportedly suffered severe injuries at the hands of Olivia's enraged brothers and had to be hospitalized, and Olivia's family was able to seek some justice for Olivia's unfair death by receiving compensation from Ethan and my ex-wife Sarah after a long lawsuit. Perhaps he had some conscience left, as Ethan did not sue Olivia's brothers for the assault. That's how I got divorced. It was a very short marriage, but the shock was immense. Still, I didn't want to lose more of my life because of them, so I worked harder and exercised more, cherishing my own life. I didn't want to neglect my life because of those pests. Now, about 3 years have passed. I'm living at my parents' house now, and thankfully, my emotional wounds have healed a lot thanks to my efforts. Sweating seems to make my mind healthier, too. My parents have largely given up the hope for grandchildren, given my age. Still, they seem to subtly wish I would remarry, but I don't have the courage yet. My trust in people has been greatly weakened because of my ex-wife, Sarah, and friend Ethan. Nevertheless, I will continue to live my life steadfastly, taking good care of my parents, hoping that spring will one day return to my heart. Meanwhile, I heard that my ex-wife, Sarah, and friend Ethan moved in together after the divorce. Beyond knowing that they left Seoul to escape people's eyes, I wasn't interested in where or how they were living. Then, a few months ago, I received a call from an unknown number. It was Sarah, my ex-wife. I felt disgust and was about to hang up, but Sarah burst into tears and abruptly told me she was divorced. What? Divorced? Oh, I was a fool. It turns out love doesn't pay the bills. I'm a single mom now. What do I do with my life, honey? I heard that after moving to the countryside and setting up house, they got pregnant and had a son right after getting married. But after that, they started fighting a lot. Sarah still hadn't found a job because she was pregnant and raising a newborn, and the income from the job Ethan barely found was pitiful. For Sarah, who was used to living comfortably with her tax accountant income, my income, and my parents' support, that impoverished life must have been too much to handle. So, she complained, it's too hard. This isn't the life I dreamed of. They say poverty makes love fly out the window, and it's true. If he had lured a person who was living well and made them like this, shouldn't he have done more? But instead, he yelled at me, telling me to stop whining because he was also struggling. Plus, he kept comparing me to his ex-wife Olivia, saying she was so nice. The two of them, who constantly compared their current partners to their exes, eventually broke up soon after, despite pretending to be true love. After splitting from Ethan, Sarah reportedly called her mother, my ex-mother-in-law, to the area where she lived, asked her to look after the child, and took out a huge loan to open a new tax accountant office. She had to live with her mother to work, even though she was greatly disappointed in her daughter. My ex-mother-in-law couldn't abandon her only child, accepted her new son-in-law Ethan, and ended up doing childcare in her twilight years. After losing the second son-in-law Ethan, too, I thought if I opened a new office, I do well like I did before, even after 2 divorces. But here, work isn't going well like it did in Seoul, and the rent isn't cheap either. I was curious to know how ruined her life was, so I listened to everything. It served her right. But why are you calling me to complain about it? I'm just so exhausted that I miss the time I was happy with you. If it wasn't for that bastard Ethan, I'd still be doing well in Seoul now. Honey, don't you miss me? I made a mistake, but I was good to you and your parents before. I'm confident I wouldn't make the same mistake if I could turn back time. So what? You want forgiveness? You bruised so many people's hearts, and even caused one person to die unfairly, and you want forgiveness, just because your life is a little hard? Don't even dream of it. Your voice disgusts me, so don't ever call me again, and just focus on raising your child well, so they don't grow up to be trash like you. Hang up. With that, I hung up on Sarah, my ex-wife, who wasn't worth talking to. But a while later, my friend Ethan showed up at my restaurant. Alex, ugh, you've got some nerve. What audacity do you have to show up here? My friend's face was covered in a scruffy beard, and he looked like a total wreck. He smelled like he hadn't washed, and the stench of alcohol was heavy. That guy knelt in front of me and sobbed, not caring about the people staring. Alex, I was so wrong back then. I came here because I want to properly beg for your forgiveness now. I don't need it, so leave. Of course, you'll never forgive me. I gave you and my ex-wife Olivia wounds that can't be healed. It sounds shameless, but seeing Sarah, who constantly made me feel small, I missed you and my ex-wife Olivia so much. The 2 people who believed in me and cheered me on without any conditions. So, I ended up divorcing Sarah, ignoring the child and everything, and now I'm living in gnawing regret. I'm so miserable that I can't sleep properly without alcohol. I didn't know the price for betraying the people who trusted me would be so horrific. Good, then keep living in that hell. I've been living in hell, having nightmares for years because of you and that woman. Wouldn't I be too wronged if you and that woman were living better than me, who you both ruined? Wouldn't Olivia in heaven be crying tears of blood? I don't need your apology, so don't ever show up in front of me again. I swallowed back my tears and walked past the hateful man. I could hear his choked sobs behind me, and a while ago, I heard shocking news. Ethan, who was living a miserable life alone, had suddenly died from acute alcohol shock. The news was delivered belatedly, after his funeral had already been held by distant relatives. Seeing him meet such a tragic end makes me wonder if there really is such a thing as divine retribution. After hearing about my friend, I spent a very unsettling few days. My parents, who knew my friend well, also sighed a lot, perhaps feeling bitter. They felt sadness and regret that he wouldn't have met such a tragic end, if he had only lived like a decent human being. Sometimes, people like my ex-wife Sarah, or my friend Ethan throw their lives into ruin because of momentary emotion or money. The path to the devil's temptation is easy and sweet, but keeping one's conscience and morality is difficult. But isn't a life worth living, one where we overcome hardships? I hope you can reflect on why the devil's temptation, which hinders us from moving toward a valuable life, is called a fearful and negative thing, by recalling the story of those people in my anecdote. Well, I will end my long story here and say goodbye. Thank you for staying interested in my somewhat dark story until the end.